Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Noelle, and today we're going to be talking about the 23 books I read in 2023. Wait, I didn't even read 23 books. Sorry, I've been watching too many of these other videos. We're going to be talking about the books I read in 2023, specifically 15 of them. If you follow me on any of my other social medias or engage with my Bookstagram at all, you will know that I have been in the biggest reading slump of my whole life. It's been over a year, and because of that, I only read 15 books in 2023, but it's okay. Fortunately, a lot of the books I did read, I did really enjoy. I did even manage to find 3 5-star books out of the 15 books I read, so I'm gonna consider that a win, because nothing else about this year was in terms of reading. Oh, and in case you're wondering, my Goodreads goal for 2023 was 40 books, and I only read 15. So just know that if you don't meet your Goodreads goal, everything is okay. Although it's very frustrating to not meet your goal, it's about quality over quantity. It's about having fun, and reading any books is better than no books. I know it really sucks, but I promise you everything will be okay. So here's to 2024 and getting out of reading slumps. So although I didn't come anywhere close to my reading goal in 2023, let's talk about the books that I did read during my year-long book slump. So the first book that I read in 2023 is The Score by Elle Kennedy. Technically this one I started in 2022, but I finished in 2023, and I did read probably 85–90% of it in 2023, so I went ahead and counted it. You know, since I was already in a slump, I think I was like, well, I'm not gonna meet my 2022 goal, so let's try and meet my 2023 goal. Little did I know that I would be in a year-long slump, but here we are. Anyways, this is the third book in the Off-Campus series, and this book follows Allie and Dean. Allie is Hannah's best friend from book 1, and then Dean is one of Garrett's hockey teammates. Garrett's the guy from book 1. Essentially, this book starts and Allie has this horrible breakup with her long-term boyfriend. She finds herself in a situation where she ends up alone with Dean. They have a one-night stand. He is kind of this playboy, but he can't stop thinking about her after they have this one-night stand, and she is like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. I know your reputation. Also, we are in the same friend group. I don't want to mess up the friend group and like have weird vibes. No one can know about us. It's basically like reformed playboy friends to lovers, secret relationship, if you will. And it's one night stand trope. And most importantly, it's a hockey romance. I rated this book a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but I think I was expecting to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the deal. I binged the deal and I gave it a 5 out of 5. I think I would have maybe rated this one higher if I didn't have such high expectations for it. Unfortunately, I had seen everyone raving about this book, so I had this idea of what it was going to be in my head, and I was just a little bit let down. I did still enjoy it nonetheless. Definitely enjoyed it more than book 2. I don't know why, but I really just did not vibe with book 2, but I didn't like it as much as the deal. I would still recommend this, especially if you like sports romance books, friends to lovers, secret relationship type deal. Definitely pick this book up if that sounds like something you'd like. The next book I read in 2023 was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Didn't love this book. I still gave it a 3 out of 5 just because it gave me the closure I needed after reading book 1. It was really nice and refreshing to read after It Ends With Us. I thought Atlas and Lily's story was very cute. I'm glad they finally both ended up together. They obviously were meant to be together. But I did feel like it was kind of just an extended epilogue. It was so long. I mean, the book's not long, but it's basically just an extension of book 1 and like Lily finally ending up with who she was meant to. I was bored, honestly. And I did read this while I was in California, and I was really sick with COVID. Even when I got better and I was still quarantining, I had no motivation to pick it up. I felt like it dragged on a bit, but I still definitely think you should read it if you've read It Ends With Us and maybe you're feeling a little heartbroken, unsettled, need some closure. This is definitely a way lighter read than It Ends With Us. So 3 out of 5 because it was enjoyable, just a little bit boring and dragged out for me. The next book I read was Hung 57 by Penelope Douglas. To say that I was let down by this book would be a huge understatement. I thought I was going to love this book because I loved Birthday Girl. Safe to say that I did not like this book. There were redeeming qualities, like the overall message that this book sent, which is like be yourself, let's be kind to others, but that was the only reason I gave it a 2 out of 5. I really did not like anything about their romance. I was more intrigued about the subplot, mystery plot that's kind of going on in this book. It wasn't my cup of tea. I was wanting to like it, but I would be lying if I said I did. But I do understand why some people like it. I mean, it's a fast read. It has an intriguing plot. I just didn't feel connected to the two characters in the slightest. So this book follows two characters who have been pen pals since I think middle school, don't quote me on that, but a very long time. One night the two characters end up at the same party and the main male character recognizes her, but she doesn't know it's him. He's kind of appalled and disgusted because she's a completely different person than she lets off in her letters. He feels betrayed and lied to. He bullies her into being who she really is and to being the person that he knows she is, which I do think the theme of be who you are, be kind to everyone is important, and I did enjoy that. I just really didn't like those two together. To me, the bullying was just a little too mean, I guess. I don't know. I just didn't really feel like they loved each other and I couldn't really vibe with it. But that's just my opinion, and so many people like this book and that's so valid. The next book I read was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. I was a little let down about this one too. I did enjoy it a lot. I really did, and honestly this was one of the first books that I read where the two characters communicated so well with each other, but I just felt like it was really long and it dragged on, and I felt like everything that was said could have been said in 350 pages. Because of the fact that it was so long, I found myself struggling to pick it up throughout various points of reading this, or I would kind of stop reading it. It took me a while to get through because of that, and I think because it took me a while to get through, I didn't feel as invested in the story and I didn't binge the book like I thought I would. So I think that's why I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. That, and just like there was so much hype around this book on Book Talk and BookTube. Everyone that I know was rating this a 5 out of 5. It was like one of the more popular books. I thought without a doubt this would be a 5-star read for me, and then when I started reading it I was just kind of like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why am I not liking this like everyone else? I just felt like there was something wrong with me because everyone else loved it, and although I really enjoyed it, I didn't love it like everyone else did. It just made me question my judgment and my opinions and stuff. Does anyone else ever feel like that? You see this book that is so hyped up. You're like, oh my god, I'm so excited to read this. I'm gonna love it. And then you read it and you're like, yeah, I'm enjoying this, but I'm not loving it. Or maybe you don't like it at all and you're just like, is there something wrong with me? Why does everyone like this but me? And it just makes you question yourself. But I totally understand the hype behind this book and I still really enjoyed it. This book follows Nate, a hockey player, and Anastasia, a figure skater. They're both student athletes. The hockey team gets in trouble and gets their rink ruined, and essentially they're forced to share a rink while she is trying to train for this huge competition that's coming up, and I think also the Olympics, so like the stakes are high. She's like, well, they're cutting in on my training time. This isn't fair. You are going to ruin my career. And she's like, just because they got their rink destroyed doesn't mean that we should have to share ours. So she hates him at first. They are in this situation where they have to share the same rink to practice, and to make matters worse, her partner ends up getting injured. Nate ends up stepping up to be her partner to help her practice. She is not for the idea at all at first, but she's really desperate for a partner, so they end up pairing up. You can kind of see where the story goes from there. The next book I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was one of the best books I read in 2023. I reread it because the show came out in March and I really wanted to see kind of how the show and the book compared. I think listening to the audiobook and watching the show while you're reading the book makes the experience so much better. Definitely made it a lot easier to understand than the first time I read it, and I think I owe that to the audiobook. I just feel like all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books make me forget that the characters aren't real people. It's really amazing when a book can teleport you to a different time or to make you feel like you're sitting in a room with people that don't even exist. They're literally just words on paper. I guess in a way they do exist, but you know what I mean. This book follows this band called the Six and this it girl in Hollywood named Daisy Jones, and it's about them coming together to create this band that rises to this unforeseen level of fame, the pressure, all of the stuff that comes with fame, and then the ultimate demise of their band and how their band fell apart. One thing I loved about this book, it kind of felt like a mystery just because when you're reading it, there's this mystery of what caused them to actually fall apart, what was the last straw. So no one knows why the band actually ended up falling apart. The whole book is just interview style between all of the band members and some other people that had a heavy presence in the band's formation, success, close friends, things like that. It basically just takes you through the rise to fame, mentally dealing with what it means to reach that level of fame and all that pressure that it puts on you, and then what caused them to fall apart. But the main mystery is that no one knows why they actually broke up. And the whole book is basically an interview of what caused them to break up. I highly recommend this book. 5 out of 5. Even rereading it was still so good. Actually, I think I enjoyed it more this time. The next book I read was My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and LJ Shin. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely picked this book up because the cover is absolutely stunning. Let's take a moment to just appreciate this work of art. I actually really don't remember a whole lot about this book. What I do remember is that it's marriage of convenience, but it's kind of like a forced marriage. It's enemies to lovers. It has a lot of character development, but other than that, this book was not very memorable for me, but I remember enjoying reading it, and I gave it a 3 out of 5. So I definitely liked it. I just, for whatever reason, have no recollection of what this book is really about. I'm kind of remembering a few things, so I guess I'll say what I remember. It follows this girl who is arranged to marry the main guy's rival, so in order to piss off his rival, he gets the girl into a situation where she's forced to marry him. So because of that, she hates him. The whole book is just about them hating each other, but being forced to live with each other and be married and be in love, and they actually fall in love. That and the guy has crazy character development. 2 different people from the beginning to the end. If you don't read it, at least you can have a work of art on your shelf. The next book I read was Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. This book was so good. It temporarily got me out of my slump. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It wasn't like a 5-star feeling, but it was good enough for me to binge and to kind of have me feeling a little bit more normal and less slumpy. It's long like the other ones, but for whatever reason, I didn't feel as annoyed about the dragging out of this book, and I think it's just because I liked the characters, I liked the found family. I did not like the main guy in the beginning, but I warmed up to him. I really liked the other characters in this book and just like the other dynamics that were going on. This book also has a lot of tropes that I absolutely adore and eat up. I think that contributed to me really enjoying it. This is a sports romance, specifically hockey romance, which we love. Forced proximity, enemies to lovers, kind of. So this book follows Stevie, and Stevie is one of the flight attendants on the sports team's plane, and Xander's one of the hockey players. They really don't get off on the right foot. They hate each other. They find each other annoyed with everything the other one does. So there's a lot of angst in the forced proximity because they're attracted to each other, but they don't like each other. So much tension that's built up because of that, and I just ate it up. I love the other characters. I love the found family. Oh, and the dogs in this book. Oh, loved it. So the next book I read was one of my all-time favorites, definitely one of my favorites of the year, The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. After reading Mile High and really liking it, I basically jumped right into this one and binged it in a few days. The fact that I was in a book slump and I binged this in a few days, this solely got me out of it and then put me right back into it because it was just that good, and I didn't feel motivated to read anything after reading this. And in case it wasn't obvious, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. It was so good. I ate it up. Everything about this book was just so good. This book follows Indy and Ryan. Indy is another flight attendant with Stevie. Her and Stevie become best friends in book 1, and Ryan, Stevie's twin brother. It's fake dating, forced proximity. Indy had just gotten out of a terrible relationship, doesn't have anywhere to live, so Stevie's like, I have the perfect idea. You should go live with Ryan. They get themselves into this situation where Ryan claims that Indy is his girlfriend, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, if you want to keep living here, we're gonna be fake dating. He is trying to gain the approval of his team and his team's general manager because he wants to become captain, and he's basically this reclusive grump. And he just wants to prove to everyone that he's not as glum as everyone thinks he is, and he can be this caring, loving guy. But then the facade actually starts to become real, and he changes so much, and his character development is so good. I ate up everything in this book. Everything about this book was the way he showed his love for her through acts of service is unmatched. This book was just so good. If you've read it, the iced coffee, or like camping scene. If you take anything away from this video, please go read this. Like, actually, please go read this. The next book I read was Flawless by Elsie Silver. This book got me into my cowboy romance era. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was such a good time. Absolutely loved it. It's about a bull rider and his agent's daughter that is basically forced to babysit him after he gets into this PR incident. So he hates her, she hates him because he's so rude to her at first. It's enemies to lovers, forced proximity, kind of like a forbidden secret romance because it's literally his agent's daughter. The angst and tension in this book was so good, and I absolutely adore the Eaton family and the found family throughout all these books. Not my favorite in the series, but it was still really, really good. So it's safe to say that with the next book I read, I did not know what I was in for. The next book I read was Heartless by Elsie Silver. This and The Right Move were two of my favorite books that I read the whole year. Actually, two of my favorite books ever. This book is unmatched in the angst and tension and banter and just everything. Oh my god. The hot tub scene. This book is so good. It was so addicting. I read it in like a matter of days. This and The Right Move were the only two books that I read this year that really had me feeling like I was out of my slump. But then with that, they put me right back into it because like they were that good that I was just like, it's this or nothing. This book made me realize how much I love the single dad trope. And I don't know what that says about me, but I ate up every minute of this. So it's single dad, cowboy rancher, forced proximity, nanny romance. So this book follows Cade. He is Rhett's brother. Rhett is the main male character from the first book. It also follows Willa, Summer's best friend. Summer's the main female character from book 1. Cade is this really closed off, quiet rancher. He basically runs the whole ranch and he has so much on his shoulders between his kid and basically running the ranch. He is so stressed out. He's always in a bad mood. And so he really needs help. Insert the nanny. Summer is like, I have the best idea. My best friend Willa would be perfect to nanny. Willa is pretty much the polar opposite of Cade. Ball of sunshine, super outgoing, super happy-go-lucky. And he also doesn't really trust anyone to be good enough for his kid. He loves his kid and would do anything for his kid. She comes in like a literal wrecking ball and just melts the ice around his heart. Slowly but surely melts away his resolve, basically changes him as a person, brings him out of his shell, brings him happiness. Also, the relationship between Willa and Luke, Cade's kid, was so cute and so wholesome, and I have never liked a kid more in a book. I just loved how rambunctious and childlike Willa was, and she was just the perfect nanny and the perfect fit for their family. Anyways, this book was one of the best books I've read in a very long time, if not ever. I think this is in my top 5 books of all time. If you take anything away from this video, please read Heartless. Please read The Right Move. I literally cannot put into words how good this book was and what this book means to me. The found family and just everything. Everything. Go read this book. The next book I read, Powerless by Elsie Silver. This was my next favorite book in the series. This was almost perfect, but it wasn't quite on par with Heartless for me, but it was so close, so incredibly close. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I couldn't give it a 5 knowing how much I loved Heartless and like just coming off of reading Heartless. And honestly, I know this sucks to say, but if I would have read this as like a standalone or a little bit later down the road, I think I would have maybe even given it a 5 out of 5. I just couldn't do that knowing how much I loved Heartless. This book didn't quite live up to Heartless for me, but this book absolutely stunning, almost as good as Heartless. So this book follows Jasper and Sloane. Jasper is essentially an honorary Eaton brother. He was kind of taken in by the Eatons growing up because he didn't have the best home life. And this book also follows Sloane, the Eaton's cousin, and she would visit their ranch every summer, and obviously Jasper would be there, and she just developed this huge crush on him throughout the years. He never really saw her that way because she was kind of like their kid cousin. It was basically like an unrequited love. Like, she loved him and he didn't really see her like that until Sloane is about to get married to this terrible, terrible man, and she finds herself in a situation on her wedding day where she needs to bail. And Jasper is like, Perfect. I will break you out of there. So they end up going on this road trip together, filled with this tension, because obviously we know Sloane really likes Jasper. It's about Jasper coming to terms with his attraction, his feelings for Sloane that he didn't always process were there, and he's like, I'm not sure how I feel about feeling this way. It's basically about them in this forced proximity situation on this road trip and falling in love. This book is a lot softer than the other books, if that makes any sense, and you can really feel their connection and their love for one another, and they're definitely meant to be really get that soulmate energy in this book. This book was everything. Next, I read Reckless, the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, and this book, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I felt kind of the same about it as Flawless. Like, I didn't feel this huge connection to it like I did with Powerless and Heartless, but they were still really enjoyable nonetheless. The characters in this book were amazing. I thought the plot was really good. Surprisingly, I liked a surprise pregnancy trope. Who would have thought? This book is surprise pregnancy, forced proximity, bull rider sports romance. This book follows Theo and Winter. Winter is Summer's sister, and then Theo is Rhett's protege. One night, they end up at the Eaton's Ranch for Christmas dinner. Winter's coming out of this terrible relationship. Her and Theo have this huge attraction to each other throughout the whole night. There's all this tension. They end up going to this hotel and this bar. They get pretty intoxicated and they confess all these things to each other and feel this connection. They have a one-night stand. Winter gets pregnant, and then she's like, I have to keep this a secret because I'm literally getting out of a terrible marriage. Theo is a big part of their friend group. No one can know. I'm just gonna raise this baby. It's about Theo helping Winter understand her worth, Winter and Summer repairing their relationship, Winter growing into herself, understanding who she is and what she wants in life, learning to love herself. It is so much more than a romance. Also, the way Theo is there for her to take care of their kid and really step up to the plate like Winter needs him to do was just so heartwarming to read about. So if you need a heartwarming romance with some spice and found family, definitely pick up this book. Next book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I'm kind of scared to say this, but I gave this book a 4 out of 5. This book took me so long to get through. Like, I found it a little bit dry in parts, but maybe that's because it wasn't solely centered on the romance. There was more literary fiction and backstory in this than I thought there was. Maybe that's what caused me to get bored. But I also found those are the parts of this story that made me rate it a 4 out of 5 because those set it apart from other books I've read. I just felt like the themes, the life lessons in this book were really amazing. So that's kind of why I gave it a 4 out of 5. I just felt like Gus and January were made for each other. Don't read this during a slump. I would have liked this book a lot more if I didn't, but I did. So I'm not going to go into great detail about this book because a lot of people have already read it, but basically it's about two people who find themselves as neighbors, kind of like a second chance romance. They had this fling, I guess you could say, in college, and they always had this attraction to one another, but nothing really ever came of it. And they're both authors, decently successful authors, but they're both in a bit of a slump. To get each other motivated and writing again, they decide to take on a challenge, which is to write in the other person's genre and writing style. In doing that, they have a lot of forced proximity, that and the fact that they're neighbors, and throughout the process they find themselves falling in love. I think that's all you really need to know about this one. Go read it. It has really amazing themes, messages, and the romance was really cute as well. The next book I read was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I gave this one a 3 out of 5, and I was a little disappointed because everyone I know who's read this rated it like 5 out of 5. I also, again, read it during a slump, so maybe I would have liked it more and felt more connected if I binged it, but I didn't. It's about two people who come from two completely separate lives, age gap, socioeconomic gap, etc., etc. They end up having a one-night stand, and they have this connection and are kind of like, we need to keep seeing each other, but their worlds are trying so hard to pull them apart. Their worlds could not be more different, and they really don't fit together other than their connection. I liked how it wasn't just solely the romance. I really felt like this was found family, standing up for what you believe in, and to learn how to prioritize things and stand up for who you love. Also, this book goes into themes of navigating difficult relationships. Got a little heavy at times, but overall a light, cozy, warm read. And if you're looking for a heartwarming, cozy book with little spice, definitely pick this book up. Last but not least, the last book I read in 2023 was Caught Up by Liz Tom Ford. This is the third book in the Windy City series. This is a baseball sports romance between one of the baseball players on Chicago's team and the team manager's daughter. So it's nanny trope, forced proximity, kind of forbidden love, I guess you could say, because it's the team manager's daughter, but not really to the extent you'd think. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. I liked it a little bit more than Mile High, but I liked it less than The Right Move. I still really enjoyed it. It just didn't hit like The Right Move did. So this book follows Kai, one of the guys on Chicago's baseball team. He is a single dad who is really having a hard time juggling his kid and his job. So he's in desperate need of a nanny, and the team manager, Monty, kind of working with him to get a nanny. He has this idea that his daughter can help and become the nanny because she is currently taking a break from work. She's in this huge inspirational slump. So she's like, I'm gonna take a break and travel for the summer. But then her dad's like, well, why don't you stay in Chicago with us? You can be the nanny for Kai's kid. Kai's really skeptical of her at first because he thinks no one is good enough for his son. He does not really vibe with any nanny. Monty's like, just trust the process. Like, I trust my girl, you should too. He's a little bit skeptical of Miller because he's seen some behavior that he views as irresponsible. She doesn't really like him because he's not very nice to her. So it's kind of enemies to lovers, I guess you could say too, and forced proximity. Miller comes in, has this great relationship with Kai's kid, and when he sees that, he begins to trust her. They begin to get closer to each other, and they're in all these forced proximity situations. They start kind of caring for one another, and they have this attraction towards each other. The rest is history. I really loved the fact that Miller and I were the same age. She was going through problems with her professional life that I feel like I'm currently going through. What do I want to do? What do I want to prioritize in life? Where are my priorities? I really related to her, and I feel like that made me enjoy this book even more. Also, the fact that he was so skeptical of her and she was so good with his kid. Over time, she just chips away at his heart, brings him out of his shell, makes him remember who he was before being a dad. I thought this story was so wholesome. I thought she fit in perfectly with their family. Also, Monty, the manager's relationship with Kai, was so wholesome as well. So it's kind of like found family in a way. I just really love this whole series. If you haven't read any of these books, go pick them up, please. They're amazing, especially if you like sports romance. You'll eat it up. Those are all the books I read in 2023. If you read any of these, comment down below and let me know which ones you read, what you rated them. Also, let me know what your Goodreads goal was and if you met your goal, if you didn't. And hopefully in 2024, we have better luck with meeting our reading goals. I hope everyone had a great day. If you watched this point, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!